8% of adults in the U.S. have a favorable view of Hamas, according to Pew Research. As disturbing as it may be that any Americans support a terrorist organization hell-bent on exterminating Jews, things get even worse when we learn that 37% of Muslims in America have a favorable view of Hamas. Yes, more than a third of American Muslims support a terrorist group that declared in their 1988 charter, "The Islamic resistance movement aspires to the realization of Allah's promise, no matter how long that should take. The Prophet, Allah bless him and grant him salvation, has said, 'The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews, when the Jew will hide behind stones and trees. The stones and trees will say, O Muslims, O Abdullah, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him.'" Only the Garkid tree, evidently a certain kind of tree, would not do that because it is one of the trees of the Jews, related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. This hadith is now famous for all the wrong reasons. Here it is in Sahih Muslim. The Messenger of Allah said, "The hour will not begin until the Muslims fight the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them until a Jew hides behind a rock or a tree, and the rock or tree will say, O Muslim, O slave of Allah, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him. Except the Garkid, a thorny tree, for it is one of the trees of the Jews." So, Hamas leaders declared in their founding charter that they aspire to the realization of Allah's promise, no matter how long it should take, that they will exterminate the Jews. But that's not their only goal. Article 8 of the 1988 Hamas Charter presents the slogan of the Islamic resistance movement. Allah is its target, the Prophet is its model, the Quran its constitution. Jihad is its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes. Jihad is its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes. Think about the problem here. Article 7 says that Hamas strives to kill Jews. Article 8 says that Hamas seeks death for the sake of Allah, martyrdom. So, on the one hand, they want to kill Jews. On the other hand, they want to die while waging jihad for Allah. What does Hamas seek? Death for both sides. They want Jews dead, and they want themselves dead. A win-win for Hamas would be death, death. And this mindset, sadly, comes straight from the Quran, Surah 9, verse 111. "Surely Allah has bought of the believers their persons and their property for this, that they shall have the garden. They fight in Allah's way, so they slay and are slain." They slay and are slain. They kill and get killed. Death, death. As a rule, it's a really, really bad idea to have a government controlled by people who seek death for everyone regardless of which side they're on. And yet, 8% of Americans and 37% of American Muslims have a favorable view of a group that seeks death for everyone. I don't have such a favorable view. Why don't I have a favorable view of Hamas? Lots of reasons. But one of the main reasons that I and most other Americans don't support Hamas is that we've all absorbed a bit of Solomon's wisdom. We don't make the connection, but the wisdom of Solomon has become part of our thinking. What do I mean here? Let's read one of the most familiar stories in the Bible, 1 Kings 3. Now 2 prostitutes came to the king, King Solomon, and stood before him. One of them said, "Pardon me, my lord. This woman and I live in the same house, and I had a baby while she was there with me. The 3rd day after my child was born, this woman also had a baby. We were alone. There was no one in the house but the 2 of us." They were alone, which means there were no witnesses except the 2 women. "During the night, this woman's son died because she lay on him. So she got up in the middle of the night and took my son from my side while I, your servant, was asleep. She put him by her breast and put her dead son by my breast. The next morning I got up to nurse my son, and he was dead. But when I looked at him closely in the morning light, I saw that it wasn't the son I had borne. The other woman said, "No, the living one is my son, the dead one is yours." But the first one insisted, "No, the dead one is yours, the living one is mine." And so they argued before the king. So, 2 women and no other witnesses. They both had newborn sons. One of the sons died. And now the women are arguing about who the living baby belongs to. This is before DNA testing, so if Solomon wants to know who's the real mother of the child who survived, he has to get these 2 women to reveal it somehow. What does he do? The king said, "This one says, my son is alive and your son is dead, while that one says, no, your son is dead and mine is alive." Then the king said, "Bring me a sword." So they brought a sword for the king. He then gave an order. "Cut the living child in 2 and give half to one and half to the other." The woman whose son was alive was deeply moved out of love for her son and said to the king, "Please, my lord, give her the living baby. Don't kill him." But the other said, "Neither I nor you shall have him. Cut him in 2. Notice, the second woman says, "Neither I nor you shall have him." Did she really want the baby? No, she just didn't want the other woman to have the baby. In other words, her baby died, and she thought to herself, it's not fair for my roommate to have a baby when my baby died. So if I can't have my baby, she shouldn't have her baby either. The first woman, by contrast, wanted the baby to live, so much so that she was willing to let the other woman have him. One woman chose life, the other chose death. And that's exactly the information King Solomon was looking for. Then the king gave his ruling. Give the living baby to the first woman. Do not kill him. She is his mother. When all Israel heard the verdict the king had given, they held the king in awe, because they saw that he had wisdom from God to administer justice. Wisdom from God to administer justice. According to this passage, wisdom from God to administer justice includes being able to look at 2 opposing sides and see which side seeks death and which side seeks life. We've already seen that Hamas seeks death, death for their enemies and death for themselves. Death, death. What about Israel? This is where someone inevitably jumps in and says, Israel's committing genocide. Oddly enough, it's the only genocide in history where the population of the victims consistently skyrockets. So even when Israel is supposedly trying to wipe out a population, they somehow bring more life. That's right, we're not buying the genocide narrative. We all know that if Israel wanted to destroy the population of Gaza, they could do it tomorrow. They don't want to. We notice that. And here's something else we notice. Hamas attacks men, women, and children. They take a bunch of hostages and then run and hide in tunnels. They don't let Gazan civilians hide in the tunnels. They make Gazan civilians stay out in the open. So, the soldiers hide in tunnels and leave women and children exposed. Why? Because their goal is to maximize death, especially civilian casualties. They want as many of their own people dead as possible. Why? They told you why when they came up with the slogan for their organization. Jihad is its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes. What do Israelis do when Hamas fires rockets at Israel or launches a terrorist attack in Israel? The houses and apartments in Israel have safe rooms. There are bomb shelters all over the place. When there's an attack, soldiers go out and fight, while civilian men, women, and children hide in safe rooms and shelters. The soldiers, whose job is to fight and protect, go out and fight. The people they're protecting run and hide. It's the exact opposite of what Hamas does. So, on one side, soldiers face danger while civilians take shelter. On the other side, civilians face danger while soldiers take shelter. If that's all I knew about this conflict, it would be enough for me to figure out which side seeks life and which side seeks death. But it's not all I know. In 2005, Israel pulled their own people out of Gaza, including Jews who lived there. They gave the people of Gaza a chance to govern themselves. What did the people of Gaza do? They elected a terrorist organization, Hamas, to lead them. They wanted death. And yet, during war, when Israel finds out where Hamas jihadis are hiding, they drop leaflets over the area, warning civilians to flee. Hamas tries to keep the civilians from fleeing because they want civilians to die. Israel even calls apartments and houses to warn civilians to leave before they attack. Very frequently, the civilians refuse to leave because many of them also believe in the Hamas slogan, "Jihad is its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes." Israel provides water and electricity to Gaza, to the very people who want to annihilate them. Why? It's one of Solomon's proverbs. He said you should try to help your enemy, hoping that your enemy will eventually feel guilty about hating you and change his ways. Solomon said, "If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head." That's the guilt. "And the Lord will reward you." Do bad things happen in war? Absolutely. And that's especially true when one side tries to maximize civilian casualties among its own population. But let's be honest, because the truth is obvious here. One side in this conflict seeks death, death for its enemies and death for its own people. The other side seeks life, life for its own people and even life for its enemies. When Hamas terrorists kill, it's because they seek death. When IDF soldiers kill, it's because they're trying to protect life. Hamas absorbed an idea from Muhammad. Surely Allah has bought of the believers their persons and their property for this, that they shall have the garden. They fight in Allah's way, so they slay and are slain. Israel absorbed an idea from Moses. Deuteronomy 30. "This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live, and that you may love the Lord your God. Listen to his voice and hold fast to him. For the Lord is your life, and he will give you many years in the land he swore to give to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Ideas matter, and we can see the consequences of different ideas. Hamas is like the woman who wanted the baby dead just so the other woman wouldn't have a baby. Hamas jihadis don't care about the land. They've got part of the land, and they turned it into Swiss cheese with all their terror tunnels. If they cared about the land, they would have a Mediterranean paradise right now. Instead, they turned the land into a terror factory. Everything is about death. They're not fighting because they care about the land. They're fighting because they don't want Jews to have any land. Israel is like the woman who said, "Don't kill the baby, give the baby to her." It's a completely different situation because a piece of land, unlike a newborn baby, can be divided up. Even though there are Jews who would love to have Gaza and the West Bank as part of one big Israel, they've repeatedly offered a two-state solution, which was rejected every single time by Palestinian leaders. There are Jews who would love to not have to worry about endless rocket attacks and endless terrorist attacks. But they keep accepting ceasefires because completely destroying the terrorists would require killing a lot more civilians since the terrorists keep hiding behind civilians. There are Jews who would love to have a temple where the Dome of the Rock stands. Israel could tear down the dome and start construction on the temple tomorrow, but they don't. They're willing to let Muslims control the holiest site in Judaism just to try to keep the peace. A win-win for Israel would be life, life. Life for them and life for their enemies who finally give up trying to slaughter them. One side seeks life, the other side seeks death. And that's why, no matter how much the keyboard jihadis and the protesters and the Groypers and the Nazis and the Candace Owens fans complain, we keep supporting the side that seeks life, because we seek life too. Israel is composed of human beings. Human beings make mistakes. The Israeli government and the IDF, like all governments and all militaries, will sometimes do things that I disagree with. Human beings and human governments are not above criticism. But at the end of the day, I can't ignore the fact that they're surrounded by people who constantly choose death and that Israel keeps choosing life. It's also why I support Israel against the economic jihad that's being waged against it. I'm a content creator, so the main thing I do when I want to help is share my thoughts in a video. But when it comes to the economic jihad against Israel, the boycotts and divestments, there's something else we can do. It's a small thing, but a bunch of people doing a small thing adds up to a big thing. That's why I've been promoting Artza boxes this year. Lots of small businesses in Israel went out of business after the war started because lots of small businesses in Israel are tourism-based, and there was no tourism after the war started. Artza is a company that gathers products made by small businesses in Israel, Jewish and Christian businesses, and some charities, and they send them to you in a box. Some of these small businesses only survived the past year and a half because they could sell items to people like us through Artza. If you're not signed up to get a quarterly Artza box, please sign up. They're not very expensive, especially considering what you're getting and how many people you're helping to make it through difficult times. Why is this important? As I pointed out before, jihadis are thinking long term. Even if they know they can't win a fight, they'll fight anyway and use the fight to spread hostility against their enemy and to hurt the economy of their enemy with the goal of weakening their enemy for a future fight that they hope they can win. Do not let jihadis destroy small businesses in Israel. I just gave you one easy way to help. Choose life. There's a link to the Artza website in the description. You can use the promo code DIZZLE for a discount. Now, for you Americans who have a favorable view of Hamas, think about who you're siding with. You're siding with a group that openly admits they seek the deaths of Jews and the deaths of their own people. You're supporting an absolute death cult. But just because you've been stupid in the past doesn't mean you have to be stupid now. Breathe in a little of Solomon's wisdom and help protect the baby from the one who actually wants to destroy the baby. And the one who actually wants to destroy the baby is Hamas.